It's your girl Alicia Cinnamon, aka Toronto's favorite spice, and welcome to Cinnamon Says, a show where I pretty much say any and everything that's on my mind. And today, something that's really been on my mind is my experience being a Toronto artist. For those of you guys who are not familiar with who Alicia Cinnamon is, I'm a singer-songwriter from Toronto. I debuted myself in the city in 2013. My claim to fame was pretty much I was doing weddings, birthdays, funerals, and I was asked to sing a song at a funeral for a young male named Tyson Bailey in 2013. When I was finished at the funeral, I realized that was the first funeral I ever attended. My emotions were at an all-time high, and I wanted to preserve the moment in a positive light. So I went to the studio, I wrote a song called I Can't Breathe, and I dedicated it to Tyson, and sent it out to his friends and family just to preserve his memory in a positive light. Flash forward, CBC News picked up on that story, that song, and decided to do a write-up about it, making me one of 6 Black Canadians in her community to make a difference. So from since then, I kind of decided to make my platform be a little bit different than the normal traditional artists, especially in Toronto. We don't really, we don't really talk about politics or our feelings. We don't really have many reality shows. We're not really outspoken, and therefore I realized a lot of people don't really know what it's like to be an artist in Toronto. And unfortunately, because we don't necessarily have inside scoops into what it is that we go through, sometimes we don't necessarily get the respect that we deserve. So today, I just wanted to, share a couple of experiences with you. So I'm gonna go through a post that I made on my Instagram earlier that's kind of catching a lot of traction. And it was basically just, referencing what it's like to be a Toronto artist. So I made this quote: "The average Toronto artist doesn't make it because there's too many haters in our neighborhoods. It would be your next door neighbors hating on your success, lying on your name, acting as if they know you because they see you at the store or they hail you or you hail them up a couple of times because y'all come from the same place. A lot choose to waste their energy focusing on proving you're not better than them just because you're an artist. A lot of their own personal insecurities and fear of incompetency comes out, rather than investing in that same energy to themselves or a business. I don't plan on being average." So the reason why I made this post is because I realized, having conversations with my friends, and we're all feeling like, what is it about Toronto that's so stagnant in terms of the music industry? And I really, really had to analyze it. COVID gave me a lot of time to sit down and just think through my thoughts and, revamp myself, rebrand myself, however which way you want to put it. And from my personal experience, just gonna put it out there, Toronto has way too many haters. Like I said in my post, it'll be your next door neighbor that's your biggest hater, literally. They can hear you rehearsing your songs inside of your house, or right now we're stuck in COVID, going on Instagram Live. I can personally tell you, I've had my neighbors call the police because they thought that we were throwing parties when really it was just me going live. But they knew that I wasn't throwing random parties. They knew what I was doing. So familiarity breeds contempt. And unfortunately, when you have to run into people in such a small city, whether it be at No Frills, whether it be at the variety store, that guy or that girl that you went to high school with doesn't really want to see you as anything other than that guy or that girl that you went to high school with. And that's really unfortunate. Something that I learned while traveling, going to other cities. Of course, there's flaws in everything, but this culture of supporting their own is something that we haven't really picked up on yet. Prime example, when I'm in Atlanta and I turn on the radio, every other song, if not every song, is predominantly Atlanta artists, and particularly American artists. Same thing when I go to New York. I can go to, the club inside of New York and still hear a Biggie Smalls track or Jay-Z. When I'm in Toronto, we only kind of get the Toronto Takeover. I believe that's on Flow on Thursdays. Most of our radio waves are dominated by everybody else. And when they do want to fill that Canadian content, they use some of the ones that are already trending, like Drake or Alyssa Cara, Bieber, Weeknd, Tory Lanez, the top 5s. We get it. It's very rare that you're going to hear a local Canadian artist make it big on our own station. We usually have to go somewhere else to get the respect that we need to come back to our city, unfortunately. And then people love us out of nowhere. So I decided that I'm going to be a little bit different, a little bit unconventional. I'm going to shake up the Toronto music industry a little bit because it doesn't really seem like we have a blueprint. So maybe we need to start laying down the foundation, where I'm going to put this out there. Stop hating. Seriously. Cut it out. I don't care if that guy was a nerd when he went to school. I don't care if that girl was a hoe. I don't care what you think about that person. If you're the same person that you were in high school, you're the loser, not them. I often hear, oh, that guy used to beat him up. Oh, Drake used to get beat up or this or that and all these little things. And it's like, if you know, it kind of took me back. Remember the show Married with Children? It took me back to those Al Bundy days where he always just focused on his one glory of, you know, those 4 touchdowns or whatever. And it's like, what have you done lately? And if that's the only thing that you're holding on to, you might be the person that's failing. So I just kind of wanted to, you know, big up the Toronto artists that I felt were really hustling, doing their things in the city. There's a lot of us. And from venues to promoters to DJs, you guys need to support us a lot more. You guys need to respect the hustle, because the saying is, if you can make it in Toronto, you can make it anywhere. You guys think New York is rough? Toronto is one of the roughest places to make a name for yourself. I'm not really sure why we pride ourselves on this screw face capital or whatever the case may be, but it's like, I've literally lost track of the amount of rappers that have passed away because they still have to prove themselves to the streets, or the streets still wants to intertwine them where they don't let them go. I just want to say this, all right? To the people in the streets. I'm not saying America is perfect, never gonna be. But what I notice over there is a lot of those gangsters or those thugs, the ones that can't cross the border or leave their block, you know what they do? They invest in the artists that they feel can. If there's some young guy or girl in their neighborhood that's doing big things, that money that they can't put out there or whatever because it's dirty money, they invest into that person. And that's how you have a lot of people that put on for cities and blocks. The worst example I would say is Tekashi 6ix9ine, because there was an investment, whether it was the wrong investment with certain goons, but there was an investment to make sure that he had his well-being set up, and now Tekashi is one of the top rappers, not really sure how, but he definitely finessed the music industry. So my point is, now imagine if people invested that energy into people who were actually good for the industry or for the cause, however which way you put it. I can speak on my personal experience being a female. You know, this is just the industry across the border. But again, being in Toronto is a little bit more difficult where, again, the city is small. We walk into venues, we don't get the level of respect that we're supposed to get. I'm not saying all of us don't, but for the most part, I think we can all agree that if we walked into, you know, a venue in New York or something, kind of have a table set up for us already, our music has already been played out there, and there's kind of a level of appreciation. Whereas here in the city of Toronto, we could literally open up at a venue on Friday and Saturday still gotta pay and almost be like a nobody on, you know, the following day. Why is that? Why is there no respect for what it is that we do? We get up every morning and we grind just like everybody else. We write our own music for the most part just like everybody else. And if I'm to be quite honest, Toronto is keeping music real. We are so, hate to say it, but because we're outdated when it comes to music, we still haven't reached that wishy-washy stage of music where the hip-hop is real, the rock is real, the R&B is real, the reggae is real. It hasn't really been popped or watered down yet, so to speak. Maybe another 10 or 15 years, it's still kind of like in an authentic form. And I say this because if you guys look at the top R&B artists that are trending, most of them are Canadians. You look at who's been dominating the hip-hop chart, I mean, Drake, Tory Lanez, come on. Music isn't dead, it lives in the north, and everybody around the world sees it. You got Alyssa Cara coming out of Brampton, you got Justin Bieber in Stratford. Nobody in the city of Toronto or the GTA or Ontario, should I say, were the ones that were really finding them and investing in them. We had to reach for Justin Timberlake and Usher and all these outsiders, just like a lot of rappers that are getting signed by Cash Money and Wu-Tang. Why are we not taking that same energy investing into our homegrown talent? Why don't we see the potential in those people that everybody else sees? We need to get rid of this, everybody in the city is a superstar, because let's face it, you're not. We're not. Not everybody in the city can be Alicia Cinnamon. Yes, I'm going to toot my own horn. And I say this humbly because, unfortunately, if we don't give ourselves credit and carry ourselves like we are the ish, we won't be treated that way. And it doesn't mean that we're better or even worse than other people. It just means, like, why is it that it's okay for you guys to spend $2,000 on a Beyonce ticket, but you won't spend $10 or $20 to support your local artist? just because you don't want to see that person get bigger than you. Let's all be realistic. I can personally tell you the amount of rumors and drama and stories that I've heard about myself where I'm just like, where did this all come from? And why? What am I doing to these people? Why they're so fascinated with trying to destroy me instead of looking at it like, wow, you know, I went to high school with that girl and I seen that girl struggle, and she was doing music from then and she was always singing in her talent shows and stuff like that. And now she's actually following her dream. That should be something that you guys should be inspired by. Instead of looking at it like, oh, that's just a local rapper or this or that. Because the world is looking at us. Like I said, our music is still getting played on the radio. We're still getting our YouTube streams. We're still getting paid for this, and we're still getting booked. The only people that are missing out on this greatness that Toronto has to offer is Toronto. Like, if you guys really realize the caliber of great artists that we have here, you treat us differently. And I'm gonna say us because I don't just speak for myself. My experience is not unique. I'm a very outspoken artist, and I choose to speak about things that a lot of other artists kind of like skirt around. But how do we make a change if we don't talk about these things? The Toronto music industry has been stagnant for the past, I'd say 20 or 25 years. And usually when I talk to people that have been in the industry for 10 years or longer, and I ask them if it's gotten better or worse, that question surprises even them. And they're like, they'd like to say that it got better, but when they really analyze it, it's like, you know what? I think it's got worse. Because it's oversaturated, let's just be honest. Everybody and their mother is a DJ, musician, or an artist. But we haven't even invested in those people that have already been spending 10 or 15 years, that we just keep on pumping out new artists. And I guess that's kind of where the lack of respect comes from, where it's like, how can I differentiate between this guy who just decided he wanted to be an artist in COVID and this guy who's been doing it for 10 or 15 years but just hasn't gotten out there yet? And one of the most insulting things people can say to Toronto artists particularly is like, oh, you're not even that big. Or, I hope one day you make it. I'm gonna give you guys some friendly advice, at least when it comes to me, okay? Most of us have already made it. You don't get to determine somebody's level of making it, okay? From we dropped that first album, from we got our music on the radio, from we decided to make a living off of our career, from we started calling ourselves artists, we made it. Majority of artists that come out are not gonna reach that superstar level. Maybe 1% of the music industry is going to be at a point where everybody in the world, for the most part, knows their name. That is not an accurate reflection of the music industry. And I'm not just talking about Toronto, I'm talking about as a whole. There's artists in Japan, there's artists in Germany, there's artists in different, Nigeria, Congo, all over the world that we've never heard of here in Canada. But does that mean that they're not successful? Success to me is if you can make a living off of doing what you want to do. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be famous. But once you're in a place where you can say, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to bite the bullet, to me, you're successful. Anything else after that is just a bonus. Because let's face it, right now, we're all non-essentials. Unless you work at No Frills or you're a nurse, everybody needs to be humble right about now. The playing field has been leveled. Period. Nobody is worth more, nobody is worth less. We should realize right now, as we're stuck in quarantine and COVID-19, however which way you want to look at this situation, this is the universe way of just completely humbling us and showing us, if there's something that you wanted to do it. There's no distractions. The playing field is evil. It is evil. Even, but to me, if you come out of this situation and you haven't figured out who you are, you've wasted your time. If you want to be an artist, or if you are an artist, invest in yourself right now. You guys should be, every DJ, every artist should be doing something to remain creative during this time. This isn't just a moment of a vacation where we just chill and wait for venues to open back up and stuff like that. Oh no, now's the time to really solidify yourself as an artist. And now's the time for the fans, or at least the listeners, to appreciate that we are not getting paid to be giving you guys these contents. Every artist and their mother is going live right now, DJs live streaming and giving the world free music, free entertainment. So the next time you think that music isn't important, the next time you think being an artist isn't important, I want y'all to remember what it was like to be stuck inside your house quarantined, and then picture being quarantined with no music, no TV, no comedy, no form of entertainment in any way, shape, or form. Because we all know Versus is keeping us alive right now. We're thriving, especially if you're in the urban hip-hop community. Versus is life between Erykah Badu and Jill Scott, Nelly and Ludacris, Babyface and Teddy Riley. That is life right now. And I mean, maybe they figured out the platform and they might be getting a little pocket change from that, but the average artist is not getting paid on a Versus scale. So when you see them going live, reshare the video, like the video, respect the talent. And if you're a female, this is a personal message that I'm going to put out there right now. This is Alicia Cinnamon Raw. If you're a female and you see that there's a female like myself that's doing her thing in the industry, support us. Because it's very, very rare that you see a female, and a black female, that is assertive enough to follow her goals in this city and do it without the backative of a whole male entourage, do it without sleeping her way to the top in spite of the rumors that people like to make up about females. Not all of us are sleeping our way to the top. And in fact, the ones that you hear getting the most problems in the industry are usually the ones who aren't sleeping their way to the top. Because the minute you do what they want you to do, you're not a threat, you're not a problem. The minute you go against the grain, you're an issue. You're difficult. You're problematic. You're this. You're that. And it's crazy because there's so many females I know that are fighting to have this image, not have, but be who they are. And their image is that women empowerment. And so many people out here, and there's a lot of women that are making it hard for us because they're out here sleeping their way to the top as well too. Let's just be realistic. But there's so many people that are assuming that's what every female does, that they don't respect the ones that don't. So I just want to say, ladies, I am for you. I am for us. I am speaking for us. Support your female entrepreneurs, because you can't ask for women empowerment if you're not ready to receive when somebody's trying to empower you. Cinnamon says.
Oh, yeah. It's my life, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top. It's my life, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top. You call yourself a friend, yet you're so weak. Never defend what you hear in the streets. Always worry about who's in my life before you worry about how to act right. When you first met me, I was me. Now I should change to fulfill your needs. Don't try to silence my voice. I made my choice to follow my destiny. And you ain't stopping me.
So I got a question here that was asked. What do you feel the difference is between the urban scene and the dancehall scene? So again, particularly as we know, majority of this show is dedicated to what it's like being Toronto. So today's hot topic is being a Toronto artist, right? So I would feel the difference between being in the urban scene, and this is from my personal experience, I can't speak for everybody, but the urban scene and the dancehall scene. The urban scene allows you to speak more freely, particularly being a female. We have, the Queen Latifahs, the MC Lights, the Lauryn Hills. It's okay for women to discuss things that are oppressing us, whereas in the dancehall scene, it's looked at as complaining. It's looked at as, dancehall is all about hype. And dancehall is all about how the facade looks. Whether it's real or not, it's how does it look. So if you really, I find it's mostly like the men that can talk about, growing up in the gully and struggling and this and that. Whereas females, our topics in the dancehall is kind of limited. It's either you're taking people's man, you're giving back people's man, you're giving bun, or you're talking about, being a bud girl or something like that, it's very rare that you'll hear like an inspirational female dancehall song. Reggae, but not so much dancehall. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare, and those songs usually don't make that big of an impact. Whereas then you have somebody like Lauryn Hill, where she has like one real, there's the Unplugged album, but there's one real album, and that's been timeless for over 25 years. I found that, the topics that we discuss, like, again, of course, a woman can really be a little bit more open with her sexuality in the terms of not just being objectified by men, but dominating her sexuality in the urban scene. For example, talking about getting her vagina eaten. You can discuss that in hip hop and R&B world. Can't really do that in dancehall. Prime example, Aishana. They literally tried to blacklist and I love Aishana, and she was like up here, and what they did was try to play the Shenseea against her, where it's like, she's not pissing people off the way Aishana is. She's a little bit more gentle, so therefore we are going to push Shenseea to Aishana. Do I think that Shenseea doesn't deserve everything that she's getting right now? Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of her because she's genuinely talented. However, it sucks in our industry, and this goes just for urban and dancehall, where there can only be one. But particularly in dancehall, it's really a huge play of women up against each other. So I would say that it's very similar in the sense that there can only be one female, or one queen, so to speak. It's very similar that it's still very male dominated. It's very similar in that we don't get paid the same. We don't get the same respect as, it's like the NBA versus WNBA. It's very similar in that regards. The differences, I would say, is content. The differences, I would say, is freedom. My outspokenness is appreciated in the urban world. It's considered a problem. In the dancehall world, I'm definitely considered problematic for my outspokenness. So I would say that's one of the huge differences. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine where we were discussing gatekeepers. And me being outspoken, and if it has ever hindered some of my platforms or avenues. And I would definitely say that being outspoken has hindered me from being connected to the people that I didn't need to be connected to. Because if I can't be my true authentic self, then what's the point? When I decided to do music, I decided to do music as a way for therapy and outlets, and to spread messages that I felt were necessary. I think a lot of us forget, especially going back into urban music, the reason behind R&B. The B stands for blues. It's not supposed to be happy. Most of our music was message music. When slaves were planning on running away from the plantation, they sang Negro spirituals. When we were on the plains in Africa, and if somebody was, thousands of miles away, we did drumming and all that stuff so we could communicate. It was always about the message. So now, I can put out cute little videos and songs that don't make sense and no substance, but I'm trying to have timeless music that lasts forever and ever and ever. So with that being said, is when you plan to be around forever, I'm kind of not worried about what I might miss out on today and tomorrow, because I'm going to be here for another 40 or 50 years anyways. I'm going to be rolling on the floor like Patti LaBelle. So I used to think, and I got stuck in a moment where I changed who I was. And I started silencing myself for other people's comforts. And I would stop speaking about the things that I felt were, an unjust. And I was losing myself. I started people started being able to get at me, because now I'm playing in their field or playing on their level instead of my level, where it's like, okay, she's out of her realm, she's not being herself, we can get her. I think the worst thing that you can ever do as a female, forget about being an artist, I think as a female, one of the worst things that we could ever do is remain silent on issues that affect us. Because let's face it, when women are gunned down or killed or raped, you don't see a plethora of men picketing and boycotting for us. Yet, and again, going to the black community, if a black man is gunned down today, guaranteed the first person on the front line is a black woman. The first person cussing off a police officer is a black woman. But let the shoe be on the other foot. If it was a female, you rarely ever see people rallying and picketing for women's issues unless they're other feminists. And to go even deeper, you don't really see white feminists sticking up for black women. Let's just be realistic. So when I looked at it like, okay, there's nobody who speaks for us. There's nobody who talks for us. Who's going to be that person? And I get it, because some of the stuff that we speak about and some of the issues that affect us, they're uncomfortable and they're messy and they're dark and they're scary, and most people don't want to talk about things like that, but they're real issues. And so that's the main reason why I decided to come out with Cinnamon Says, is so that I can provide an outlet for myself, provide an outlet for, there's going to be many guests that are coming through to have very deep, intricate, educated, and personal stories about people's real experiences. Because I feel like oftentimes when you know where a person is coming from or why they do what they do, then you can understand their reaction to certain situations a lot better. And for me, I found, like, when I came in the game, everybody loves you when you first come in the game. You're the greatest, you're on top of the world. And then as soon as I got to that peak where it's like, this girl's about to be the next big thing, it was just like drama after drama after drama after drama after drama. And 90% of the time, it was people that were supposed to be a part of my team, people that I liked, people that I thought liked me, people that I've helped, and people that I've supported. So then I realized now, okay, when I turn to, different media outlets, where we do need an outlet as artists to tell our stories, to tell our plights. And it's not in a way to complain, but in any other, we got it in Jamaica, we got it in all over the States, all over Europe. There's all kind of like talk shows and stuff and outlets and reality shows for artists to express themselves, but we didn't have that here in Toronto. And a lot of us were suffering in silence. A lot of us are just giving up on our careers. A lot of us were feeling like we were the only ones. And then I decided that, you know what, I'm not gonna be that Toronto artist that coulda, shoulda, woulda been. I don't wanna be that person like, man, that girl was a wicked singer, but I don't know what happened to her. I always, no matter what, whether it's through music, whether it's through talk shows, whether it's through models, whether it's through seeing me in a play, commercials, whatever, people are always going to see Alicia Cinnamon doing something in the entertainment field, because it's my calling, and I refuse to allow other people to make me give that up. So in terms of understanding that I'm probably not going to get to that Beyonce level, because let's face it, Beyonce is a 1 in a billion, but that's not why I came in the music industry. I came into the music industry for therapy for myself and my fans. So as long as my fans are still buying, and as long as my fans are still supporting, there will always be a way. Am I worried about the gatekeepers? Yes and no. But again, I wouldn't be my authentic sense of self if I had to fake it to get into certain things. Now, can I be a business person? Of course. Can I turn the other cheek to things that aren't life or death or detrimental? Absolutely. But I would never sell myself short or sell myself out to be a part of anything that doesn't reflect who I am internally. And if I can't be myself, then I'd rather just not be a part of it. And so that's where I think, for me personally, the difference is in the hip hop world, that's actually really appreciated, that uniqueness, that freshness, where it's like, man, this girl's outspoken, she a beast, she's feisty. They love that. In the dancehall world, it's kind of like, how dare she try to change things, and how dare she, go against the culture? Because let's just be realistic, music is also a culture. Every genre of music has its culture. So that is something where I always had to be respectful and mindful of that, where it's like, you know what, if I don't fit in the culture, I'm just going to stay away from it. But if it's just that these people are trying to make it seem like it's culture, but other people in the culture are saying it's not culture, then I'm going to make a difference about it. And one of the main things that I noticed is that while it might be culture in the dancehall community, Caribbean community, for women to be submissive and not really speak about certain things, and we don't get to own our sexuality, and when we do own our sexuality, we own it in a very, I hate to say it, but distasteful way. I wanted to change that, because I am Caribbean, and I wanted to help change that narrative that, look, there's absolutely positively nothing wrong with owning your sexuality. There's nothing wrong with a woman being sexual or loving to have sex or wanting to have sex in any way, shape, or form, so long as it's her choice. so long as she is the final person to get to say the say on her body, so long as she is the final person that gets to say on her looks, her imaging, who touches her, who doesn't touch her, all of that stuff. That is female empowerment in terms of sexuality. I don't feel like men can tell us how to empower ourselves sexually. And oftentimes, of course, we want to be able to be, a turn on to men. If you're a heterosexual female, that's inevitable. However, just like a woman can't tell a man how to be a man, a man can't tell a woman how to be a woman either. So I feel like we need more assertive females in the industry, particularly the urban industry, that are saying, we're not going to take this crap. We're not going to be, objectified. We're not going to take this, shitty pay that you guys are giving us. We are going to speak about the things that we want to speak about, and we're not going to be silenced for it. I think, like I said, Equal Rights and Justice was the best title for Aishana's song, where she was talking about some really, eating the kitty and all this other stuff that just kind of rubbed some Jamaican men the wrong way. But let's just be realistic. If the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. So a lot of men don't want that to be incorporated into dancehall, because then it'll expose a lot of people who are already doing it. It's 2020. People need to free up. We need to let go of this controlling what other people do in the confines of their own house. Whoever people want to lay with, gay, straight, black, white, Chinese, Filipino, from it's not your man or your woman. It ain't your business. And if people want to talk about it and express themselves, it shouldn't only be men who can discuss sexuality open and not be looked at as whores. So that's going to segue into my next topic, the next segment. Stay tuned. Cinnamon Says.
And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top. It's my life, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top. Stop, I can't do this. This supposed to be heavenly bliss. You only want credit of making me yours, but you don't wanna help me break down these doors. Stop hating on me. We clearly come from different realities. I think I made a big mistake this time. How could I be wrong when I knew you have it's my life, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top. It's my life, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you don't like it, step away from me. But I'ma keep on doing exactly what I gotta do to get to the top.
Alright, so that brings me into my last hot topic with my special guest, Miss TASHA, who happened to be a former model in the Toronto entertainment industry. So why don't you share your experience and what that was like as a female?
That's right. That was about 11 years ago. So I did a lot of competitions and shows, got accepted into a few top modeling agencies, one by the name of Sutherland Models. A lot of women know them. But I decided that it was pretty pricey, because at that time I was working part-time.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pursue it full-time.
Mm-hmm. And
I decided like all the makeup, and I'm not about that life, So it's just too much. It was too much.
So is there anything that personally turned you off from the industry itself? Like, did you ever feel like you were put in any compromising positions to do anything, or was it just you just didn't want to do modeling anymore?
Oh yes, like I find that a lot of like attractive women like herself, black women like herself, there's attractive men that want to sleep with us,
Right.
as well. So I'm just not about that life. It's just not me.
Interesting. And you currently have kids right now, right? So was that a factor in you stepping away from it?
That was before I had kids. So, but now I'm actually trying to pursue entrepreneur position.
Nice.
I don't want to say much right now because I don't want people copying my line yet.
I got you.
It's just think about the future.
Right.
Future goals.
Gotcha. And is it something that you would ever think about pursuing again, getting back into modeling, or you're just kind of done with it?
Oh yes, I want to do my own line in terms of that business, but I would say through the agencies, I don't want to work with any of them because they said that I'm kind of what they already have, and I'm unique. I'm not everybody,
Right. And if you can elaborate a little bit more on that,
Yes.
what do you mean by that? That's an interesting concept. What do you mean by that?
So I'm a black. I'm black, right?
Yeah.
Black American or
Black Canadian.
Yeah, exactly, Canadian. And I'm not half breed. A lot of people think because I'm so fair skinned, I'm mixed with white, but I'm actually not.
Right.
My parents are both from Jamaica.
Right.
Yes. So.
Oh, so you're saying basically they said they already had your look.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. It's the opposite for me because when I started modeling, they're like, we don't have anybody who looks like you. But I was also a lot thicker then. And then they told me like lose all the weight, whatever. Now flash forward, I lose the weight and thick is in. So like the white agencies and the white like commercials and stuff, they love me. But the black agencies is like, but then it's kind of beneficial because I don't look like, I guess you could say, a traditional black girl in the black world.
That's right.
And I don't look like a traditional black girl in the white world. So it's really interesting how like, as much as we try to act like, oh, we don't see color and all these things, but it's like those things really matter at the end of the day on how you look on both sides of the spectrum. So it's interesting that you mentioned that they said that they already had that look like
That's
it.
right.
That there's so many varieties of blackness. It's like, how do you say we already have that? It's like, I don't think, two people, well, yeah, obviously some people can look alike, but that's wow, that's very insulting. But,
Exactly.
so, and I guess, again, that's a reflection of Canada. Canada doesn't really have that level of diversity in the entertainment industry, so I can definitely see how, I guess, that stigma could be attached to some of us where I feel like we box ourselves in. And that even goes into the music industry where it's, if you're a black female, they want you to look, talk, walk, think, and sing a certain type of way. And it's like, okay, well, what if I want to do, like Fifi Dobson, where she, decided, hey, I'm going to do rock. Like she didn't maybe necessarily fit the mold and the look of it, but she did her thing. So it's like, and then you got Lil Nas X doing country music and stuff like that. So I think it's for us to kind of step out of those stereotypes that people put on us. We have to be a little bit more assertive about that as for ourselves as well. But then I also find this also gives us the opportunity to create our own agencies and our own spaces, because we can't get mad if we're not putting those things out there. We're not creating those spaces for ourselves, but we're expecting people to know what our definition of beauty is to us.
That's right.
They're gonna have their definition and we have to have ours. So if that's something that I want to say, especially during COVID, this is the perfect opportunity for the Toronto industry to start getting creative, because we can sit here and we can complain about things all we want. And like I say it all the time, people think I'm really hard when it comes on, black Canadians, but I just feel like we are put in a position right now where there's opportunities, but we have to seek it out. It's not going to be given to us. It's not going to be handed to us. Nobody's going to come and say, hey, we're sorry for the way that we treated you these past 400 years. It's not happening. So now we need to start creating these opportunities and start asserting ourselves with many different businesses so that we don't have to kind of, and I'm not saying it's the blame game, because our complaints are very real, but it's like we can complain, but what's the solution? So thank you so much, Miss TASHA, for having us come through. Something that I like to ask everybody at the end of my conversations, because for those of you guys who are not aware, Cinnamon Says did start off as a live on Instagram that just kind of blew up, and people were like, hey, make it into a solid show. So here we have this solid show. So something that I always ask people on Cinnamon Says on IG, which I'm going to keep the culture here, is if you had one message to get out to the world, what would it be?
Very good question. I remember taking, like you're talking to somebody that's very resourceful. So we have, I was a part of a youth organization, and I remember Gandhi's message, be the change that you want to see,
Right.
And I would kind of change it up a little bit. I don't like the word change so much, but I would say be the difference that you want to see.
I like that.
Yeah, or make the difference that you want to see.
I like that.
Because yes, we need there's so much political issues in the world, and we need some sort of improvement on what we already have. Like you said, finding the solution to solving the problem. It's very simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that we need to do. And I guess, again, like I said, we're stuck in COVID. Now's the time to be creative. Now's the time to find solutions. So what things have you been doing in terms of staying creative, especially, being a mom? How are you keeping your sanity?
Very good question. Like I said, I have 2 kids, 2 years apart. One is 4, one is 2, and just juggling. And they're a full-time job in itself.
Right.
Absolutely. Not women, but mothers and fathers. Taking care of kids is like you should be getting the most money for that. Yeah, exactly.
So don't be hating on anybody getting baby bonus, y'all. They're getting paid for their jobs, okay? Right. Stop hating, all right?
That is so true.
No, but I mean, it's factual. Like, I think people really undermined, you know, and I think a lot of people have learned the hard way during COVID that you're going to think twice before you think a stay-at-home mom is some kind of easy job now that you guys have had to homeschool your children and been stuck with them kids.
Yeah.
Day in and day out, and it's hard to explain to like a 2-year-old why you can't go outside and play. Like, they don't understand, hey, we're in quarantine. All they know is that I want to go outside and play. So I hopefully coming out of this, a lot of people will have more respect for teachers, nurses, daycare workers, parents, that cashier at No Frills, the PSWs, the orderlies that clean the hospital, the people that we laugh at McDonald's. I can't say we because I never did that, but you people that are hating on people for having minimum wage jobs, I think right now is the perfect opportunity for a lot of people, this is my message to the world, to look inside of self. This is, like I said earlier, the playing field is level. Nobody is more or less than anybody. We are all equals, and what we choose to come out of, how we choose to come out of this situation is a reflection of who we are as people. Consider this a rebirth. Consider it being something that if you were to get to start your life all over again, if you're somebody who believes in reincarnation and you get to start your life all over again, but you have the knowledge, the experience, and the information that you had in your past life, what would you do different? So thank you so much, Miss Tasha, for coming through. I appreciate you, girl. I'm gonna let you get back to your kids. And y'all stay tuned for the next episode of Cinnamon Says.
That's right.
So guys, if you would like to be a sponsor for Cinnamon Says, you can contact me at aliciacinnamonbookings@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to be a guest or you have a hot topic that you would like for me to discuss, you can email me, again, at aliciacinnamonbookings@gmail.com, or send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram at Alicia Cinnamon. And most importantly, make sure you follow me at Alicia Cinnamon on all social media platforms and Real Alicia Cinnamon on YouTube. Click that button and subscribe. Peace.
I'm coming for your spot. Forget about the six, it's the queen of tea dye. I'm an old school chick with an old school vibe. Good music's coming back cause I'm keeping it alive. I don't care about the money, I just wanna make a song. I can make your body move, I can make you sing along. R&B diva with the spirit of a rapper. T that's taking over, turn the page, new chapter. What you know about a girl like this? You don't know about Toronto, but you know about the six. I'm the 80s baby and a 90s girl. Canadian queen about to take over the world. Toronto's favorite spice, I'm Alicia Cinnamon. When you rollin' with a queen, you're guaranteed to take a win. All eyes on my city.